Hi everyone. Happy Thursday, I think. So I did a post a little bit ago about low tone and strengthening, and my ideas were mostly focused to the 1 and under age group. However, they can be used for kids that are older and kids that are still working on some of those skills. So like, for instance, I've heard from some parents that they have a 15 or 16-month-old who isn't yet standing and walking. So that would be great for them to work on maybe some of the crawling, the kneeling, those things. So while it has age ranges, it doesn't mean that those ages are set in stone. So, what I did want to talk about was kind of some general things with working on strengthening with kids with low tone. So one, it's going to take a lot of repetitions. So they are going to build strength by becoming more efficient at turning on the muscles that they want to turn on. And so that is actually a coordination thing, and it just requires more effort for them to turn those muscles on. And so what happens is, because it takes so much effort, they either aren't able to, or they might turn on more than one muscle to try to compensate. And so as they get stronger, they get better at turning on just what they want to. So let's take this for instance. So if I want to bend my arm, but maybe I don't have the strength, or I have lower tone, I might be like, see how I'm pulling in my arm and everything else to try to get that to bend. So as this gets stronger, I can work on just turning on that muscle. And so that is where coordination and strength can kind of meet for younger kids. Because when we think of strengthening, we think of people getting bulky. And so in kids who are prepubescent, they actually gain strength by becoming more efficient and effective at turning on the right muscle at the right time, which is a coordination feature. I'm repeating myself a little bit, but it can be confusing. And so best thing to do with coordination, as we've talked about before, is repetition. And so that's also going to help with their muscle endurance. So the ability to keep turning on and not fatigue as fast. So it kind of all plays into each other. Other things that you want to think about are, you want to give them enough support to have some success. So say I'm a baby and I am doing tummy time. I don't know. I don't have the strength to do this, to lift my head up, to push down on the ground. So I can lay flat on the ground forever, and I don't know how fast I will make gains because I'm not getting any practice with the skill I want to do. So what do you do with that? Well, I've talked a lot about ways to support tummy time, and this is just an example. So I might make it a little bit easier. I might put them on an inclined surface. So now I'm taking some of the gravity effect away, so they don't have to work quite as hard to lift that head or to push up. I might use my hands. I might support them on their bottom while they're on an incline, so that they can work on just isolating and not have to worry about stabilizing the whole body. I might use my hands to kind of give them some support at the outside of their arms. So again, stabilizing their trunk more so they can work on just that head and isolating it out. You could use, depending on how old your child is, you could look into things like Theratogs or SpiaVest. All of those give some of that extra external support to help with the stabilization so they can isolate the control and turn on their muscles. Another thing, and it goes kind of hand in hand with that, and we've been talking a lot about it with some of the kids we've been seeing at work, and you also want to facilitate the movement pattern that you want. And that sounds simple and obvious, but let's just take pull to sit. So if you're pulling a little one to sit and they don't have that chin tuck yet, and you're just bringing them up like this, that's not helping, because all they're learning is this. They might be turning on their core muscles and engaging with the arm. But if they're not initiating with that head, they're not learning that movement pattern, and all it's doing is reinforcing this, using that head extension to come up into sitting. So what do? You start with them either elevated some, so on a wedge again or a pillow, so that they can get that chin tuck from the beginning, or you start with them sitting and lowering down so they're getting the chin tuck. You give them support at the shoulders. Again, you want to find what they need in order to do the movement that you are trying to get them to do. Another example is like rolling. So sometimes kids like to extend as they try to roll, and you eventually help them learn to flex, but all that they're doing is, if they're starting with that extension, they are reinforcing that movement pattern. So it becomes harder to learn a new pattern later. So what do? Get them to the point where they can access their flexion before they turn on the extension. So maybe it's starting from side lying and going onto the belly. Maybe if they're in side lying, you have to like tip them back a little bit to get those righting reactions to kick in, so the flexors kick in, and then help them go. Does this make sense? Hopefully it does. It can be a confusing concept, and we definitely talk about it a lot at work. So it's not something that people always pick up on right away. But just think about, like, if you want them to work on hands and knees, you might have to start with their bottom sitting back on their heels while their hands are down. You might have to give them a lot of support at the shoulders so that they can work on lifting the head. And again, once they start to get that, you might be able to move in a little bit to the lifting the bottom up, maybe releasing how much support you're giving them. So again, you want lots of repetition. You want to work on getting that core strong. So a lot of the exercises I talked about with the core are working the core, and that's because that is your foundation. Because if you can stabilize your core, you can make movement off of it so much easier. And that's why I talked about in some of my examples, giving the external support to help stabilize so that they can start to build that strength. And then helping them to be successful. And I might have just repeated that because I went off on a tangent. So anyway, I'm going to put up a question box here. Let me know what questions you have about some of these concepts and ideas that I just talked about. Thank you, and have a great day.